Happy Monday, everybody. It is NFL season, week one in the NFL. We are here to help make your NFL week one a profitable one through the props betting market. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. We are going to break down the Lions and the Chiefs, and we're going to go position by position. You are going to want to stick around. We're going to break down the quarterback props, the running back props, the wide receivers, tight ends. We're going to go over special teams and anytime touchdowns. Then we're going to give out some numbers that we hope we see later this week. And we've got a lot of stuff to help you cash those bets. If you like the gambling content, please hit the like button while you're watching this. It really helps us out. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com and Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Gentlemen, NFL is finally here, where it's just props galore from now till February pretty much. And let's get started with the quarterbacks in this game. We've got Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes. Matt, coming to you, when you looked into the quarterback props for this game, did anything stick out to you? What's your read on this, and what props are you liking?
I mean, obviously, when you have these two lineups, these offenses against each other, we're looking for lots of points, ideally, which means, unfortunately, probably a lot of overs, which I know kind of sets you up if this thing is a defensive struggle to potentially take a bath in some of these props. But you look at the last year and you see, Kansas City was in the top 3 when it came to fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, and Detroit was number 1. Now, the Lions did improve their secondary, so I do expect some things there. But, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes could throw to the 3 of us and probably get a couple of touchdowns. The one thing that was kind of interesting, when you look at the Detroit Lions give up the most rushing yards per game to quarterbacks, and we know that their pass rush is good enough to force Patrick Mahomes out of the pocket. We know Patrick Mahomes isn't dealing with an ankle injury like he was towards the end of last year. There probably is some value in taking a look at Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards over. It's a really low number. It's obviously a low number for a reason. The only one worry is the kneel downs, whether it's the end of the first half or the end of the game. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to break off a pretty big run at some point in this thing. So I'd actually look at Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards over. The Lions allowed to over 40 yards rushing on average per game to quarterbacks last season.
Great work, Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com. Andrew, coming to you, the quarterbacks in this one, Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes. You finding any value in any of these props?
Andy, I love the quarterback props. I'm going to start things off with one that I guess people don't like to cheer for all the time, but if you like to bet unders and cheer against people not to do very well, how about an interception prop to kick things off? Jared Goff, minus 105 to throw an interception here. I think you look at last year, 7 interceptions through the first 8 games of the year. He's minus 105 to throw one. I'm looking at over 1.5 passing touchdowns as well. Despite a running back room people are talking about quite a bit that should be very successful. Many games over 1.5 passing touchdowns last year for him came against really good teams. Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Minnesota. It's supposed to be a game with plenty of points, like Matt just mentioned. And if that's the case, I feel like at minus 120, over 1.5 passing touchdowns is a pretty good play to look at. So I think that's a pretty good one. And talk about that Mahomes rushing prop. I didn't know whether or not we would mention this right now or in the next segment, but Matt already mentioned it. So I'll just stack on top of him and say I like that one quite a bit as well. Ranking 29th in the league last year in rushing yards allowed. That's Detroit. And Mahomes, that's a short number. I mean, last year he didn't start things off with many big runs over the first couple games, but then after that he was exploding in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And let's not forget, this is a guy that was dealing with injuries to end last year. And I'd never, ever like to going to try and tell you guys I learned something from a documentary. I'm actually personally loving all the hype about the Jets going into the year right now. But when I watched Quarterback, that show, and I saw them talking about Mahomes and how much of a competitor he is, I think that if he's out there and he's ready, he's 100% after a healthy summer, he's going to want to prove he's the same quarterback he was when he didn't have an injured ankle and he wasn't injured. 13.5 is not a lot for a game that should see points and for a Detroit team that allows a lot of rushing yards. So I'm expecting a big game, and I'm looking at a lot of Jared Goff props actually for this week, Andy.
It's interesting you bring up the Jared Goff. I stumbled upon the 1.5 passing touchdowns and immediately jumped off the page. He did this 9 times last year, and the Chiefs allowed 11 quarterbacks to do it last year. I got to believe that this is how they attack the Kansas City Chiefs, is through the air. I don't think that this running game is going to be a real bruiser. I mean, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs and you've got David Montgomery. And I think this is a through the air type of game and type of offense. Now, Andrew, I'm going to go head to head with you. I actually like Jared Goff to not throw an interception, believe it or not. So this will be fun. You mentioned he started off the year, he threw an interception in 6 out of 8 games, but then he didn't throw one for the rest of the season. He went 312 attempts without throwing an interception. I don't know, maybe he settled into the offense, maybe he threw the ball away instead of trying to thread the needle into tight windows. The Chiefs do have a good secondary. I look at Goff and how he finished the year, and I thought, wow, he's really doing a good job protecting the ball. So I kind of lean for him to not throw an interception, but I'm in full agreement with you that Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns ended up being my favorite quarterback prop. So love the Mahomes rushing. I think we're on that one. I think we're on the Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns for the
I did not have that on my bingo card, Andy, for us going head to head on that prop. That was not on my week 1 bingo card.
Well, when we say quarterbacks, when we break down the quarterbacks, there's 2 of them. So inevitably, we're going to end up looking at the same props. So let's move to the running backs, and there's quite a few of them in this game. So, Matt, first off, I know you've been having a really good MLB season, and just because it's NFL season doesn't mean we can't cash in MLB. So tell us a little bit about your MLB success, where we can find you at, what you have up, and then let's go into running backs and what props you like.
Currently on a 79-50 long-term run on Major League Baseball, a 25-8 short-term run in Major League Baseball. It's just one of those things. It's one of those sports. You either get really hot, you get really cold. I was cold the first month of the season, been hot the last month of the season. So certainly you can find my baseball props up there at sportsmemo.com. And then look, we're going to do later on the numbers we hope to see. I've been sitting here refreshing literally every sports book, trying to wait for the Jahmyr Gibbs receptions. I mean, his receiving yards keeps going up. I think it opened at 26.5. I'm looking now on DraftKings, and I believe it's 28.5 with a minus 150 to the over, which means it's going to flip to 29.5 soon. I just think that, and you hear Ben Johnson come out, the offensive coordinator, and says, we're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs in ways you can't even imagine, which makes me think he's going to line up at wide receiver a lot. He's going to line up maybe even as a wildcat quarterback. I just think this is going to be the Jahmyr Gibbs show. And, look, I don't as much want to take him the ball. Although if Ben Johnson means that we think he's going to be used as a receiver and he's going to be used more as a rusher, then maybe there is value on 37.5 rushing yards. So I'm focused in on Jahmyr Gibbs here, especially in the receiving side. I'm hoping for 2.5. I'm thinking we're still going to get 3.5 with regards to his receptions. And I still will probably go over on 3.5. 4.5 is probably pushing it. But this is, to me, the Jahmyr Gibbs show coming up on Thursday. On the Kansas City side, I'm trying to figure out Andy Reid's running back rotations is just something I don't want to do in the first game of the season. Isaiah Pacheco, you still got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He could throw a fullback in there. I don't know. So I'm just going to kind of focus in on the Lions side of things when it comes to this position.
Yeah, running backs. The Chiefs alone are going to end up with probably 3 running backs with props. You're looking at Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Jerick McKinnon's got some props out. Andrew, what do you make of the running backs in this game?
Yeah, Andy, I'm getting Eagles vibes from this Chiefs team with trying to figure out the running back room, who's going to do what, which week one guy's going to explode. Not really something ideal as far as people looking to bet on props. But as far as Pacheco is concerned, I'm not seeing a number right now, but I wanted to mention it during this segment. I'm looking at his attempts prop. This is something I have my eye on because we did just speak about how many different options there are. But Andy, you just kind of called me out there about bringing up a stat for some guys at the start of a year compared to how a guy ended the year. To me, that's a real big case for Isaiah Pacheco. Looking at the start of the year for him, the usage rate, attempts, yards per carry wasn't very good. Ending the year in the playoffs, we're seeing big numbers from him on the ground. And I think that he was able to break a lot of tackles. So I'm looking at him and his attempts. I'm not saying he won't be successful, and I don't want to look at his rushing yards, but I feel like that, Matt talks about trying to figure out Andy Reid's room. I feel like Pacheco will be welcomed right away to that Chiefs offense. And I'm on Jahmyr Gibbs as well, but I'm going to be pretty much looking at him rushing and receiving over. And I didn't really like last year doing a lot of these combo props, but he seems like the kind of guy that every single week it's going to be one of the two that breaks off for a huge play. And I'll be just very disappointed I didn't combine them together. So talking about a guy that could receive the ball for a 4 or 5 yard catch and then break off for 20 or 30 yards, it would be very disappointing for me if I only had his rushing. So I'm going to combine Gibbs' rushing and receiving number over, and I feel like that will lead me to success. So at 70.5 yards, I feel like it's definitely worth playing.
Couldn't agree more on the Jahmyr Gibbs and the value on the overs to start the season until the books try and figure it out. One prop that I thought was a little under the radar, David Montgomery, under 12.5 yards for his longest rush. Last year, he had 201 carries. He only had 5 carries longer than that. And I just don't think he's the guy that is going to get the ball kind of in the middle of the field a lot. I think if he's getting his carries, most of them are probably going to be inside the red zone where it's tougher to get to this 13 yards. I could see him getting more carries inside the 10 than in between the 20s. I think that could be a little bit more of the Jahmyr Gibbs. So if I get less carries from him in the middle of the field where there's less open space, I think it's less likely that he breaks a long one. He's never been known to be the fastest guy in the world either. So David Montgomery, I think we're getting pretty good value on 12.5, under 12.5 on his longest rush. And Matt, I'm with you. I don't know what to make of these Chiefs running backs. It wouldn't surprise me if I went the entire season without playing a Chiefs running back over or under. We just don't know what we're going to get. I mean, Jerick McKinnon had his moments, and then we got Pacheco rushing in for a touchdown on 11 carries, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is now in the game. So I think this Chiefs backfield, they're just going to use it sporadically throughout the year. If a guy has a hot hand, they want to keep all these guys completely healthy for the playoffs. So this Chiefs running back situation could be real icky moving forward for props this year. Guys, if you like what you're seeing, please leave us a comment. Let us know your favorite prop for Thursday night. Don't forget to hit the like button and make sure you're following us on Twitter. We're going to move to the wide receivers and the tight ends. Matt, coming to you first. The Chiefs, interesting passing game here. Mahomes, it seems like he just falls out of bed into 250 yards and 5,000 yards for the season. But we get some changes in the offense here. Obviously, Jared Goff has Amon-Ra St. Brown, but missing Williams for the first half of the year. What do you make of the wide receivers and tight ends in this game?
So I kind of want to look at the tight end side of things when it comes to, obviously Detroit's exploitable. They were like a top 5 bottom defense when it came to defending the tight end. The problem always is with Travis Kelce is, the numbers are always inflated. That's the reason why I don't love playing the number 1 guys in any sport, it feels like, because the numbers are going to be inflated because, the common bettor, which is what we're trying to educate, always thinks, Travis Kelce always probably goes over his number. He's the best tight end in football, so he's got to go over, and that books know that, so they raise his number a couple of yards every time. I'm kind of interested in and need to dig a little more into Sam Laporta, the tight end for Detroit. Kansas City last year didn't face a lot of really good tight ends, so they're kind of in the middle of the pack when you look at tight ends. But like you look at the numbers here and some of the guys they faced: Noah Fant, Albert O, Dawson Knox is mediocre. George Kittle killed them for 6 catches for 98 yards, and we know that Jared Goff at times likes his tight ends because TJ Hawkinson had some solid numbers when he was part of Detroit and things like that. So I think Sam Laporta is going to be one of those guys you either jump in on this lowish number because you think he's going to do really well, or he does really well and then you never get a number this low once again. So he's kind of the guy I'm going to be really interested in seeing how he fits into this Lions offense, especially early without Jamison Williams and without, a really good 3 or 4 wide receiver on the Detroit offense.
Andrew, come to you. I want to get your thoughts on wide receivers and tight ends, but I definitely have to bring up the absolute heater that you've been on. Just CFL, MLB, you are absolutely on fire. You've had an incredible last 30 days, which is perfect coming into NFL season. So please tell us, I know you've been talking about really, really low volume and it's been working. The units are up. It's like the number of players are down, but the units are up. So tell us about the last 30 days, what you have up right now, where we can find you, and then let's talk some wide receivers and tight ends.
I appreciate it, Andy. And I'll just say, I don't want to, be a broken record on here for everybody else. I feel like whenever I mention low volume, it's a reminder for myself as well, not just for everybody else out there. It's a reminder for myself to continue doing that. I'm 75% win percentage over the last 30 days, up 57 units. And it just feels so weird to me to look at my last 7 days and see 7 plays or 8 plays. It's just not what I used to do. But guys, it's working for me. One bet in the UFC on Saturday was a winner. One play in the CFL on Saturday was a winner. Yesterday, one play in the MLB, one play in the CFL, both those winners. So a great weekend, and looking forward to the NFL season. I have a current package up right now. You get all of my NFL sides, totals, prop plays. We'll throw in the CFL for free. Plus, we're slashing $100 off that package. So I'm really, really looking forward to the new season. And as you always talk about, Andy, with the cross-sport plays you can make and so many things going on at once, the bookmakers have to set lines for all these games. We do not have to bet on all of them. So it's really advantageous for us, and I'll look to keep on taking advantage of it. One guy that stuck out to me right away, guys, was Jerick McKinnon. I mean, this number to me is just too low, plain and simple. I look at 19.5 receiving yards. Look at some of the even average games he had when he was catching the ball a fair amount. He's going over this on his first catch. In the preseason, he had one decent catch on third down. It was a 23-yard catch. For a guy that's not that big of a person, and, he's not like your tight ends where they're being able to beat guys to the ball through the air and, win those battles. He's just somebody that either, one, uses his speed to get by people, or number two, once he catches it, he can turn it into something. So when I look at Jerick McKinnon and some of these games he had, 112 yards off 7 receptions, 70 yards, 8 receptions. This is a guy that is more than capable. And even in some of his bad games where he had, 1 or 2 receptions, he's still hitting the 30, 40-yard mark in some of those instances. And I know that this is a Chiefs team that has a lot of mouths to feed. And that sometimes can be an issue. And I feel like that takes into account why we're getting the number that we are here. But I'm confident, guys, that if he gets 1, maybe 2 catches at the most, we will go up and over 19.5 receiving yards. That's my one and only bet here for the receiving yards for this week.
Love it. I've got a special up right now. We're going to do a special for the first month of NFL plays. Traditionally, we start off the year really good, and you can use the promo code NFL99. That's promo code NFL99. Get you the first 30 days for only $99. That includes all props, all 5% plays, all totals. Last year, we were number 1 in 5% plays and number 1 in totals. We're going right back to that. And I expect a really, really good start to the season. So great deal. Get the first 30 days of the NFL season for only $99. Use the promo code NFL99. And Matt, I thought I was going to be sneaky and break out my Sam Laporta thoughts, and then you beat me to it. I have to come back to you because I think this is interesting. Sam Laporta, 34.5 for receiving yards. To me, that seems high. Rookie tight end who, traditionally struggles a little bit. George Kittle has sung his praises. The Lions coaching staff has sung his praises, and we've seen some pretty awesome catches in training camp. Obviously, you can't take a whole lot away from that. I'm hoping we get a great number on receptions. Would you be interested if they came out with 2.5 receptions for Sam Laporta? It seems like a depleted passing game here. 34.5. If I get 2.5 receptions, I think I'm jumping on that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, look, you're never going to take an under on Amara St. Brown, but I almost feel like Gibbs is going to get 3. I think Laporta is going to get at least 3. By the way, for people who aren't familiar, Sam Laporta went to Iowa. TJ Hawkinson went to Iowa. Iowa churns out tight ends like it's nobody's business. So, that when he comes in, he's going to be reliable. And, I think Kansas City is exploitable at linebacker when it comes to the tight end. So, yeah, 2.5 would be great. 3.5 would be pushing it a little bit. But I think Laporta is going to be busy early on in this offense.
The other one that I was looking at was Amon-Ra St. Brown. You brought him up, and I don't know. I feel like if I like Jared Goff to throw over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and I feel like it's going to be a shootout, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be involved in it. His number is 77.5 right now on DraftKings. It's the highest number for this game besides Travis Kelce, and I think I want a little piece of it. Little chalky, and it's the big name guy, but seems a little bit low. Like outside of Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs, yeah, he's going to be the guy. And he's been one of the top 3 receivers since he got on the same page with Jared Goff. And I feel like if this is if his name was, Devontae Adams, or if his name was Justin Jefferson, just name value alone, this thing would be 10, 15 yards higher. I don't know if the books have totally caught up to Amon-Ra St. Brown's total. So I like the 77.5. 6.5 receptions seems about right. I don't know if there's any value there, but yeah, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown over the number, but I am more interested in waiting to see what number we get on Sam Laporta on the receptions out of this one. Let's do a little defensive kickers, props. Guys, the money still spends the same, and sometimes there's real value on this. Matt, any thoughts on the special teams or defense in this game?
Well, as the kicking guru of the show, I have to weigh in here on the special teams aspect of it. Last year was the first in like at least 5 or 6 years. I have the number somewhere. I have to go get it. But like 5 or 6 straight NFL kickoff games have seen somebody kick multiple field goals in a row in a game. Last year was the first one to break that because both kickers had one. Because I had Matt Gay over 1.5 field goals last year, and of course he only had one, so that was a bit unfortunate. But obviously you can get some value here potentially on the kickers because, look, obviously everybody thinks there's going to be a lot of extra points. The books have already set up Harrison Butker's number is so big when it comes to minus, I'm pulling it up now. It's like minus 180. Oh, it's minus 195 on 2.5 PATs over. So obviously when they put up the Lions kicker, it's going to probably have the same kind of juice on the over here. But yeah, there had been a long stretch where somebody had kicked multiple field goals in the kickoff game, the first game of the season. Last year was the first year that broke it, but I don't know. I mean, nobody kicks field goals against the Chiefs year after year. They're in the top 5 of field goal attempts allowed because they're going to score touchdowns. You're not going to win by kicking field goals. So that's always something I'm looking at. I'm leery at taking any sort of field goals against Kansas City because they just don't settle for field goals themselves.
Andrew, any thoughts on special teams or defense in this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Matt quite a bit that when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, you're not going to win the game by kicking field goals. What is Kelly in Vegas, or Kelly in Florida, we should call her now, say? Kicking is for losers. You're not going to win a game against a team like the Chiefs by kicking field goals. I'm going to look towards the under there, but I did talk about this, and I know that we're going to talk about touchdowns near the end of the show. If I like Jared Goff over on pass attempts, if I like him over on completions, if I like him to throw an interception because he's throwing that much, it probably means I think that the Chiefs are going to bring one home the other way. So that's what I'm looking at. I'll touch on that near the end of the show. But yeah, looking at under field goal props. And honestly, I think I will take a look at under in general for the entire game. Under 3.5 field goals for both teams combined. I know a lot of times people say first game of the year, settling things in, like not going to be too risky and go for it in certain situations like this. But this to me has the hype that I think might actually live up to be a really good game. There's so much talent out there. And I think both teams, I wouldn't be surprised to see, I wish there was a betting line for over under times teams go for it on 4th down. I'd bet the over if that was a solid number. I feel like we'll see a little more of that in this game between these two talented teams than just settling for field goals. So that's what I'm looking at. But I wouldn't mind seeing a special teams touchdown this week, Andy.
I have one defensive prop that I really like, and it's plus money right now. It's plus 105 on DraftKings. This is Kirby Joseph to have over 4.5 tackles plus assists. This guy was a 3rd round pick. And we look at how he started off the year, kind of settling in. He only had 1 total tackle and assist in the first game. He had 1 in the second game. And then you see 3, 3, and 2. And then bang. He goes over this total in 9 out of the next 11 games. He's the starting safety. We know that the Chiefs are explosive. We know that they're going to be running a lot of plays. We know that Kelsey's going to catch the ball. And he's going to be involved in a lot of these tackles. I think this is an absolutely fantastic number at plus 105. I mean, look at the totals that this guy had once he was, really, really established as a starter. I mean, this 5, 6, 10, 7, 6, 8. He had games where he flew over this total. So when we're looking at these tackles and assists, you really want to make sure that the defense is going to be on the field and that they're going to have to make a lot of tackles. And against the Chiefs offense, against teams like the Bills and the Eagles, when you know they're going to be running a lot of offensive plays, it's a great spot to look at the other team's defense. So Kirby Joseph over 4.5 tackles plus assists. It's my favorite defensive play in this game, and you're getting plus money on that one. So very, very excited about that. Let's go ahead and do the lines I hope I get, and then we're going to wrap up the show with an anytime touchdown game where we each get 5 units, and we have to spread out anytime touchdowns in the Chiefs and Lions game. But since we're recording this early in the week and we do not have all of the props out, we're going to do lines I hope I get. These are just some props on players that we're just praying that the gambling gods give us so we can take advantage of. Guys, please hit the like button and leave us a comment for your favorite prop for this Thursday or Sunday. We always love seeing what you guys are on. Matt, lines you hope you get. I'm assuming Jahmyr Gibbs is on this list. What else do you have? So many players, so many props for week 1. What are your lines that you hope you get?
I'm hoping I get Antonio Gibson receptions at a reasonable number. We talked about it on the show. I'm a fan of his. I think that Antonio Gibson's going to be used kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I almost feel like they're going to be mirror images of each other, and they're both being used by creative offensive coordinators as well. Eric Bieniemy. You're going to want to have a lot of short throws, a lot of screen passes for Sam Howell in that first game, and I also potentially might look at no interception for Sam Howell. I mean, what kind of resistance is he going to have against this Arizona Cardinals team? Certainly that's going to be something interesting. And the other thing that I'm looking at that I really hope we get a reasonable number on is Anthony Richardson rushing yards. I mean, we just saw, the one game that I watched him in the preseason against the Eagles, he wants to run. It feels like if his first read or his second read is not there, he's going to run the ball. And I think, carries and yards could be certainly in play with Anthony Richardson. I'm hoping for 28.5 rushing yards. Probably won't be that low, but I think he's the type of guy, and Andy, you can certainly speak on this as well as a Colts fan. I think Richardson's going to go more often than not, and I think he's going to go for some long runs. So give me, a reasonable number on Anthony Richardson rushing yards, and then a reasonable number on Antonio Gibson reception they take on the Cardinals.
Andrew, coming to you, what are some lines that you hope you get for week 1 in NFL?
Yeah, this one might shock you guys a little bit, but I'm looking. You guys know I love the quarterback props. I'm looking to hopefully get some reasonable numbers on Deshaun Watson completions. This is a team that I think we've talked about for many years now. I've loved betting Nick Chubb over rushing yards, no matter who's been out there. Kareem Hunt, I bet him for a long time during the season. But this is a full training camp. The team is his. There's no more distractions as of right now in week 1. I'm sure there'll be something that happens in week 3, but as of right now, full training camp, he's the guy. This team does have a decent receiving core. I feel like that the big next step for this Browns team is to not be known as a team that can only win if they run the ball all game long. And looking at some of the numbers that he produced towards the end of last season, it was okay, but I'll tell you what, the attempts were there, the completions were not. But I think I said that now that you look at the training camp and the offseason and him being the number 1 guy and nothing else going on, I feel like the chemistry will be there. So if I get a number like 20.5 or something like that, I'll be looking to bet the over in that one. And honestly, Jordan Love, I'm looking to bet the over for his pass completions, but also looking to bet the over on his pass attempts. This is a guy that I think that people aren't really talking about. Nobody cares about the Packers, and I've been scared to talk about the Packers a lot because most people on social media know I'm a Packers fan. This offense actually seems like it's going to be better and more electric than it was last year. Even though it's 2 different quarterbacks, you got a young kid coming in. It seems like it's really interesting because there's not really that number 1 guy anymore as far as the receiving. There's multiple guys that are going to have big games every single game, and I do believe that with the running room that they have, with a mobile quarterback now instead of a 45, 50-year-old guy that's on his way to retirement, he'll be able to keep the defense guessing. So I'm looking at Jordan Love over pass completions and pass attempts.
Matt, you and I are on the same page. I had Anthony Richardson and Antonio Gibson jotted down. A couple of others that I like. I really hope they keep giving us Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's gone over this every single game that he's started and finished. I also am really interested in Tyler Higbee props now that Cooper Kupp is dealing with. I don't know. I think this hamstring injury is a lot more serious than what they're leading on. A report just came out he's seeing a specialist for his hamstring injury, and this is shaping up to be a disaster season for the Rams. Without Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee may be the next most favorite option in the passing game for the Rams. So I'm hoping to get good numbers on Tyler Higbee, and I'm also interested in Aaron Rodgers' pass attempts. This offensive line for the Jets has a lot of holes in it. I know they're going up against a really bad Chicago Bears defense, but I feel like Aaron Rodgers may not have all the time in the world to set up deep passes. I feel like his passing game could be a little bit more dink and dunk. They're going to run the ball, obviously. They're going to try to run the ball, but behind the offensive line, it may be bad. And I think we get Aaron Rodgers with a lot of short, safe attempts. He's getting older. He's going to throw the ball away instead of, taking sacks. So I'm interested in that. And then for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm really interested in some George Pickens props and maybe even a touchdown prop. They're going up against a really, really tough San Francisco 49ers defense. But if Pickens is going to take the next step, this may be the best line that we get on him all season. So if we get a low number on receiving yards, maybe even a touchdown prop, and he does well this week, those numbers are going to keep going up and up and up. So George Pickens is on my list on lines I hope I get. But I really am hoping they keep Brock Purdy at 1.5 passing touchdowns with reasonable juice. I will play that every game on him, and I think at the end of the season I come out ahead. So. All right, we're going to finish up the show with our anytime touchdown game. We each get 5 units to sprinkle around. We can put it on 1 play. We can put it on 5 plays. We can do whatever we want. We're focusing on the Lions and the Chiefs. So, Matt, you got 5 units. You got your anytime touchdown props. What are you going to do with them?
By the way, now that we did that segment, guys, we hope the books aren't watching because we obviously, if they were watching, they're now going to set higher numbers. So we were just kidding around that last segment. Please do whatever you want with those players. All right. So I wish I was one of these guys that could just be like, hey, put 5 units on this guy. I'm just not. I'm a spread the wealth kind of guy in terms of just, firing away at the board when it comes to this. And I'm going to do 2 units on David Montgomery at plus 110. I want to make sure I get a plus. I never like taking minus touchdown scores because to me it's just, it's so obvious that they're going to score, especially there's some times where Derrick Henry's minus 180 to score a touchdown. To me, it's not worth it, even if pretty much he's guaranteed to do it. So give me 2 units on David Montgomery at plus 110. I got to take a unit on Jahmyr Gibbs at plus 135. I feel like this is going to be a showcase for him on Thursday night. So that's 3. We just talked about him. Sam Laporta, give me plus 255 on Sam Laporta for 1 unit. And then I got to go Patrick Mahomes. We know Patrick Mahomes likes to run it, and the Lions give up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks, and he's plus 255 as well. So 1 unit on Patrick Mahomes, 1 unit on Sam Laporta, 1 unit on Jahmyr Gibbs, and 2 units on David Montgomery to score touchdowns in this game on Thursday.
All right, Andrew, anytime touchdown, you got 5 units. You going all in on one person, or are you going to spread them out a little bit?
This reminds me of last year. We did the same game parlay, and I threw in a regular play, and you were just shocked, Andy. But I got a bone to pick with Matt for what he said there because Prez and I had an argument about this last year on Puck Time about anytime goal scorers in hockey, and his favorite player scored 60 goals. There's 82 games in a season. He was scoring pretty much every game, it felt like, at one point. So I get it. It might not be that special for us to come on here and say, yeah, Travis Kelce's going to score a touchdown. But, last year, I started thinking my year off, I think I went 1-0 with Cooper Kupp to score a touchdown. Sometimes keeping it simple, stupid is the way to go with it. But I get his point. You don't want to lay that juice and all of a sudden fall behind so early in the season. I'll go 2 units, Travis Kelce. I will go 2 units, David Montgomery. And I will go 1 unit, Patrick Mahomes at plus 255.
I'm going to go 1 unit on Amon-Ra St. Brown if I think Goff is going to be throwing, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be catching a lot of passes. I got to take 1 unit on Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then I'm going to move to Travis Kelce, but I'm going to make a little adjustment here. He's minus 165 to score a touchdown. I'm going to put the rest of my 4 units on Travis Kelce to score a touchdown plus the Chiefs to win. That gives me a 60-cent discount. It's minus 105. So Kelce scored a touchdown in 10 games last year, and they won 9 of them. So if he's scoring a touchdown, the Chiefs are winning these games. So I'm going to take 1 unit on Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then give me the 4 units on Kelce to score plus to Chiefs to win at minus 105.
Boo. Boo.
I knew it was coming. Andy was waiting all show.
In this game.
Andy was waiting all show for a same game parlay. He was itching over there. There we go. We got one.
Okay, in my defense, that was in the wide receivers tight end section, and then Matt throws out the anytime touchdown game a half hour before the show starts. So I had to just move it and talk about it. And
you sure there's not an MMA fighter you want to throw in that same game parlay there, Andy? You want to juice that thing up a little bit?
Alexander Volkov, he's going to run through Tai Tuivasa. The length and reach and the kicks and the jabs are going to be too much. You can even take him by KO. Listen, I could do this cross-sport parlay all day long. Same game parlay for life. So,
I wanted to mention, Andy, there's one that I forgot that I want to mention. I apologize really quick. Travis Kelce's longest reception under. I like quite a bit. I forgot to mention this. I was checking my notes. Pretty much, you talk about the way a guy ended a year versus started a year. Last year, he was actually a short yardage guy. Yards at the max. He went 8 of his last 9 games of the year, going under 20 yards for his longest reception. So things might have changed. I mean, this is a guy that I might be looking at for receptions more than yards this year as far as Travis Kelce is concerned.
I've already cashed a bet on Travis Kelce in the summer. I actually bet on him and Patrick Mahomes in the golf tournament when they played Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. I watched them warming up. Travis Kelce's got a really nice golf swing. Klay Thompson looked terrible, and I just in warm-ups, I was like, I'm definitely playing Mahomes and Kelce, and they waxed Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. So maybe I should just call it quits on Kelce and take my 1-0 and for the year.
Hey guys, it's going to be a fun show on Friday when this game's 13-10, and all of our touchdown props lose. It's just going to be awesome when this is a field goal fest.
That's all right. At least things on the internet don't live for very long. Oh wait, people will go back and leave comments if we miss all of our picks. So we know everyone's going to do that. So all right, guys, that's going to do it. First show of the season for Prop It Up. We will be back every Friday and every Monday, getting you ready for the weekends and for Monday Night Football. That is Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. That is Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Good luck on all your picks. Good luck on Thursday, and we will see everybody Friday morning on Prop It Up.